Hello and thanks for joining us for a late night newscast coming to you from Arirang TV. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story tonight, 2 days of high-level talks between the two Koreas at the Inter-Korean Joint Industrial Complex in the North Korean border town of Kaesong have come to an end without producing an agreement to improve ties. For the details, let's jump straight over to our Gwon-soa at the Inter-Korean Dialogue headquarters in Seoul. So, Soa, it appears the two Koreas will have to go back to the drawing board.
Right, Mark. Unfortunately, Seoul and Pyongyang failed to reach an agreement. Now, despite a good start on Friday and anticipation for day 2, this first vice minister level meeting resulted with no tangible outcome. Now, after 2 sessions this Saturday, just between the chief delegates, Pyongyang called for another one at 6:20 p.m., but that only lasted 5 minutes. The North Korean side told the South that there was no reason to continue the talks, as Seoul didn't seem to have the will to resume a tour program to the North's Mount Kumgang resort. Now, that was the topic predicted to be Pyongyang's top priority, as Seoul pulled the plug on the tours in 2008 after a South Korean tourist was shot dead by a North Korean soldier. Now, among other things, South Korea's main focus was to get North Korea to agree on regular reunions to be held for families separated by the Korean War, as there are tens of thousands of elderly Koreans on both sides of the border waiting for one last chance to see their long-lost relatives again. Now, what caused the biggest clash was that Pyongyang wanted the two issues to be dealt with at the same time and wanted to see a clear yes from Seoul on resuming tours to the mountain resort. But Seoul stressed that given the different nature of the two issues, it was inappropriate to link them. Now, unfortunately, the two Koreas also failed on deciding on the timing of a next meeting. Well, Seoul did ask for a resumption on Monday, but Pyongyang said there is no point. So we will have to wait and see what's going to happen next and whether these kinds of talks could happen on a regular basis. Now, that's all I have for now. This has been Gwon-soa reporting live at the Inter-Korean Dialogue headquarters in Seoul. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Soa, for that report. Now, an ambitious and balanced agreement. That's how France's foreign minister has described the final draft deal sealed at the UN climate conference in Paris. Laurent Fabius said the new climate draft will be legally binding and keep temperature rises well below 2 degrees Celsius, but aim to limit the impact to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. He said a collective stocktake of progress made towards the target will be held every 5 years. Speaking at the same press conference, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon said the final COP21 draft is historic and sets the world on a new path to a low-emissions, climate-resilient future. He added that nature was sending urgent signals and the world needs all hands on deck. Representatives of 190 countries have been taking part in the discussions over the past couple of weeks. The United States has lauded this week's official discussions at the UN Security Council on North Korea's human rights violations. US Secretary of State John Kerry said Washington joins its fellow members of the Security Council in expressing deep concern over Pyongyang's grave human rights violations that pose a threat to global peace and security. Kerry also called on the North Korean leadership to comply with its international obligations and commitments. The 15-member Security Council added the situation in North Korea, including human rights, to its agenda and held its first meeting on this issue 1 year ago. Now, the first ever scheduled overseas performance by North Korea's most famous all-female music band has been called off at ultra-short notice. The Moranbong Band, made up of some 24 young women, have been booked to perform in Beijing on Saturday night and do 2 other shows in the Chinese capital. However, they are already back in North Korea. While no official reason has been given, watchers in South Korea speculate the absence of top Chinese leaders, including President Xi Jinping, was probably behind the decision. The band was sent to China for what Pyongyang described as a friendship performance to boost bilateral ties. They are believed to be Kim Jong-un's favourite group, with some even saying that each member had been handpicked by Kim. Kim's wife, Lee Sol-ju, used to be a member of the band. Now, back here in South Korea, and a growing rift between separate factions of the nation's main opposition party looks like it could burst wide open in the coming days. And with elections just a few months away, the timing couldn't be any worse. Former co-chairman of the New Politics Alliance for Democracy, Ahn Cheol-soo, will hold a news conference at the National Assembly on Sunday, where he might announce that he's walking away from the party. Ahn, a leading figure within the NPAD, is said to be disappointed with the party's chairman Moon Jae-in for rejecting his proposal that they hold a party convention to find a new leader. Now, in an attempt to stop Ahn leaving the party, NPAD party members held an emergency meeting late Saturday after Moon urged Ahn to stay and help him overhaul the party. Watchers have expressed concern that if Ahn does leave, other party members could follow suit. And that would deal a huge blow to the party's chances in general elections set for April next year, and also impact the Liberal Party's chance of winning the next presidential election, which is set for 2017. Now, in the coming days, we will know what the US Federal Reserve plans to do with interest rates. If expected, the Fed decides to hike rates, shockwaves will likely reverberate around the world, sucking money back into the US and damaging emerging economies like Korea. For more on the potential impact, Shin Se-min reports.
Expectations are higher than ever that the U.S. Federal Reserve will start hiking rates this month. If liftoff is announced, it'll be the first time the Fed has raised rates from near zero since 2006. The heightened possibility of an imminent rate hike is weighing heavily on emerging markets, including Korea. For one, the decision could trigger a massive outflow of foreign capital. Market watchers suspect a hike could have an even bigger impact on Korea than originally expected, especially considering other factors, such as the slowing Chinese economy and tumbling commodity prices. With the greenback strengthening, the Korean won will depreciate, possibly accelerating the pace of funds out of Korea.
If capital outflow accelerates, it'll put pressure on the Bank of Korea to hike its benchmark rate. But it won't be easy for the BOK to do that, given the nation's massive household debt mountain, which is nearing the $1 trillion mark.
Taking a wait-and-see approach, the Bank of Korea this week froze its key interest rate at a record low of 1.5% for the sixth straight month. Experts add that instability in emerging markets will deal a blow to Korean exporters who already face long-term difficulties with the slowdown in China. Korea's total exports fell 4.7% on year last month, coming in at $44 billion. Exports have fallen every month since the start of the year. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, people and investors are asking, how low can it go? The price of oil is scraping near the bottom of the barrel, though. On Friday, Dubai Crude dropped to a more than 10-year low. It fell by more than 30 cents to close at just over $36 a barrel. That's the lowest level since it hit $34.55 in early 2005. Also on Friday, Brent slipped below $38 a barrel for the first time in 7 years to close 4.5% lower at $37.93. US crude ended more than 3% down at $35.62. Now, this all comes after OPEC, the oil producers cartel, refused to cut oil production last week. The problem is being exacerbated by the strong dollar, which is, of course, the currency in which oil is priced, and weak global demand. Now, it goes without saying that crossing a river without a bridge is virtually impossible, and it's even harder when tanks and other heavy military hardware try to do the same thing. Fortunately, South Korean and US forces have the ability to quickly construct makeshift bridges to ensure they can keep moving regardless of the terrain. Connie Kim has this report.
Tanks and armored vehicles approach the side of a river only to find they'll need a bridge to cross it. South Korean and U.S. forces have gathered in Yeoncheon-gun County north of Seoul for a wartime simulation drill where the two allies jointly build a bridge to cross the waterway. Helicopters hover above to secure the site as a tank first crosses the river to secure territory on the other side. Pieces of the bridge are spread out at the riverside and transported to where the temporary bridge is being constructed. A Chinook helicopter also transports a piece of the bridge to the river, helping the Allied forces quickly connect the pieces together. One by one, the pieces are attached so the rest of the tanks can safely get across. Made up of 21 pieces, this 180-meter-long bridge can be pieced together in about an hour. Once it's ready, U.S. tanks and personnel can cross this river in a matter of minutes. U.S. tanks, including the M1 Abrams, were utilized along with some 260 South Korean and American forces.
The river crossing drill allows us to work together and exchange know-how during the maneuver, laying the foundation for an effective joint operation.
The U.S. Army says the training is essential considering Korea's unique geological characteristics.
Considering the fact that there are many rivers in South Korea and it's very likely that we would have to conduct a river crossing if we were to go into combat operations, this training exercise was very beneficial for us to work together and see how the ROK Army does a river crossing.
The 10-day drill wrapped up Thursday with the Allies evaluating it as a success. They plan to continue conducting joint river crossing operations to prepare for any wartime situations. Connie Kim, Arirang News, Yeoncheon-gun County.
Now, before we go, let's have a brief overview of the weekend weather here in Korea. And the good news is that we're going to see the mild, relatively mild and bright conditions we enjoyed today stretch into Sunday. And it's going to be pretty much nice everywhere, so make sure you make the most of it as temperatures are going to plunge early next week. For the rest of the viewers out there around the world, here's a look at the world weather. Well, that's all we have for now. We do hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend and stay tuned to Arirang TV, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.